Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, this is a Cold War era beauty, the JRA Gallant. Okay, so as an overview, the Gallant is made by James River Armory. It is essentially a Galil that's kind of been reassembled from different Galil parts. They brought over the parts from Israel. They used some of the furniture, a lot of the different parts, and then a new steel receiver and fashioned a new barrel for an 18-inch barrel, and they put it together and they call it a Gallant. So it is a long stroke gas piston system, basically like an AK. In fact, there's some fun history behind that, but I will refer you to the article for that. And it's chambered in 5.56, so we've had a good time testing it today. And now we're going to talk about the Ergos. Let's talk about ergonomics, shall we? One of the first things that you're gonna run into with a rifle like this is that it's heavy. Even a pretty well accessorized M4 AR is not gonna be too terribly bad, but this comes in dry at right around 9 pounds. And I didn't really feel it until we got to the championship rounds, like between 400 and 500 rounds. So adding on to that weight, one of the benefits is recoil impulse. I was able to secure this thing pretty well and rock several shots, 2, 3 in a row, and still hit. Part of that is due to the weight. It's got a really soft recoil impulse, so it's pretty manageable. You've got a folding stock back here. The butt plate on the end, that's either aluminum or steel, and it's ribbed. It stays in your shoulder. As long as you keep it pulled tight, it does a great job. It stays there and it doesn't beat me up too bad. But the grip I really like. You can see it's got these large finger wells in there. Some people may not like that, but it worked really well for me. I enjoyed it. And then the controls, the fire controls, pretty interesting. Now you can see the inspiration, the AK right here. You've got this fire selector here, but it is also mirrored with a thumb selector on this side, and that reciprocates on the other side. So when I do this, it causes the safety on the other side to move back and forth too. So pretty cool in that respect. I was able to manipulate shooting left-handed and still able to get hit, so pretty cool for that. Then you've got the charging handle, again AK style. This is going to be a reach over, or for the cool people, reach under, whatever's going to work for you. Then moving forward, you've got this enormous wooden chunk of a grip. I have a 2X size hand, and I'm able to hang on to that pretty well, but it is a really big grip. The one good thing about it is, even though the receiver, the barrel certainly got very hot, the handguard got hot, but not so hot that I ever had to put a glove on. So I appreciated that. You don't get a lot of options for accessories here, but you got to keep in mind that this came about, the original Galil came about like in the 60s. So this is a Cold War era gun. Moving forward, there's a bayonet lug on this model. There's 3 different models, but there is a bayonet lug on this model. So excited about that. The sights are pretty interesting. You've got a smaller and larger window diopter in the back that you can switch back and forth, and then a front post up front that has a shield around it, and that is driftable. Now, I found that in this case, holding lower right quadrant was able to get me my hits, especially when we shot MOA. This can be drifted and can be adjusted for windage and elevation. So, and the trigger is actually really good. I was expecting kind of an AK trigger. It's a little bit springy, but it's overall really good. I enjoyed it. You also have sling mounts here, but they're the HK hook gate type style. So you need to think about that if this is something that you want to run. You're definitely going to want to sling on a rifle like this because of the weight, and you'll want something that is capable of either hooking in or attaching somehow. I really like this U-loop connection from Blue Force Gear. This thing, you just loop it through, and this is like a braided cable here that's covered, and then drop it back in, and you can hook it to almost anything. Overall, ergonomics were very good. All right, one of my worst fears has come true. I'm shooting 100 yards with iron sights only. You guys have heard me fuss about having enough glass, enough magnification to actually hit the target. This Gallant does not come with an accessory rail. I believe they're out there and you can mount up scopes to them, but for this test, we're going to be shooting, trying to group MOA at 100 yards with iron sights. And I'm just using AAC, and what kind of performance you can anticipate at this distance. There's no reason to beat a dead horse here. If we've got even 5 MOA with irons, with me shooting, I'm okay with it. All right, folks, so here's the results. Again, I'm going to be happy to admit to you that my sight picture that I was holding, it took a couple of shots to figure out where we were hitting. And I literally covered this lower right quadrant with the front post and got this group here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that is just over 3 inches, so 3 MOA with iron sights from the Galil, shooting 55 grain AAC 5.56. So I'm pretty happy with that. All right, so here's a question for the Pew Pew Tacticians. What is going to motivate you guys to buy something like this? Are you into the milsurp? Are you into the retro rifles? Because this one kind of bridges that category a little bit, and I'm very curious to hear what's going to motivate you to be interested in something like this. Head down in the comments below and let us know. All right, folks, our final thoughts on the JRA Gallant. Man, this has been a pretty cool experience, forcing me to go back to shooting irons again. That was tough, I gotta admit. Going back to trying to shoot 100 yards with irons and still being able to pull off just over 3 MOA, that's impressive. I think this is a pretty accurate rifle. It is also pretty reliable. On the 500 rounds that we shot exclusively, AAC 5.56 and a 55 grain, it only had one problem. We had one failure to eject. That was a stovepipe, but cleared out real easily, and we didn't have any other issues for the rest of testing. So accurate and pretty reliable, and the ergonomics are good too. The only downside on the ergonomics, in my opinion, is just the weight. It is pretty heavy. But then again, this is a Cold War era gun, so it's kind of one of those things where we were still evolving firearms to the benefit of the person using them. The M4 was ultimately adopted, and so the Gallant, or the Galil, went the way of the dodo, so to speak. But they're still out there. They're still a viable platform, and they're pretty cool. Now, the pricing on these, there's 3 different models that Classic Firearms has, and this one I believe is around $900, so not too terribly bad. This is a piece of history. You're not going to be able to accessorize a whole lot. I do think that there are accessory rails where you can mount up an optic for these, but then again, it might take away from the classic nature of this firearm. Interestingly, the Galils, there were several different versions of them. There were small ones, there were sniper versions, so it was kind of a package that they put together to try to meet a lot of different needs. So overall, very cool rifle. I'm glad that I got to check this out, and I'm glad that you watched this video. We appreciate you guys supporting us. We want to thank you, and we'll see you on the next one.